Hey guys, it's Chris, and welcome to the Toneful video podcast, episode number 10. And today's episode is called Do You Love What You Do? And this is going to be for the daytime job musicians and people who work normal jobs. So, part of being a musician and getting started or being in different segments of our musicianhood is sometimes having a day job. And so today I wanted to talk about some of the suggestions that I have and some of the things that I've learned, when having a job as being a musician as something that is not only very important to me, but I felt was my primary purpose. So remember that not only do we feel that we're a musician by job, but our purpose in life. So whatever we do, whatever we choose, we kind of choose around that. So these were some of the ideas that I had come up with, and I think there's a few questions you can ask yourself about the job you would choose that would go along with being a musician. Because being a musician is a very, not only competitive market, but it's also one that's based purely on opinion. So right now, what you could be working on, you could consider your best work and it does nothing. And then later you're working on some ideas that you just think are kind of neat. And those end up being the ones that really push you forward, that really push your personal life forward is with music. It pushes your career forward with music. So it's really interesting to see what works out for people, and we got to make money, we got to pay bills, and we got to be able to support ourselves. So anyway, let's get into it. The first one is choosing a career that matches your personality. So a lot of us have different types of personalities as musicians, and I think that's one of the coolest things about all the different musicians that I've met and that I keep meeting, is that all of us have different levels to us. I've seen musicians who are tattoo artists. I've seen ones who are working in the car industry. I've seen even some who rebuild jet engines, and if you're one of those people who saw this, the one who rebuilds jet engines, you know who you are. That is so cool. There's so many different people in the music industry who do so many other things that I think are hyper important. So not only are they offering music to this world and their internal expression and that communication, they're also offering maybe a service to other people that I think is great. So that first thing is finding something that matches your personality. If you're a higher energy person, maybe being a physical trainer. If you're a lower energy person, maybe being a programmer, maybe being a person who's works in a quieter area, maybe a librarian until libraries go away, whatever, things that are more chill, things that are more relaxed in their nature. So having first a job that meets your personality so you're not drained by the end of the day. Because remember, at the end of the day, you want to be able to play music. You don't want this to be a thing where, you're almost trapped in a position where your job eats up all your energy. So you got to find one that fits your energy style and some one that fits your personality. Choosing a job that is flexible. I think it's really important to choose a job that's flexible and that they understand who you are as a musician. So I think right off from the interview, I think it's important to express that you are a musician. I think you got to be careful about it, because if you express it's too important to you, then it sounds like you don't want to work at the job you might be trying to get a job at or something like that. Might be a little tough. But I think it is important to, right off the bat, let them know that you're a musician. So then that way you can kind of make some bargaining points and you can kind of make some moves that allow you to get closer to being flexible in the future, because you kind of want them to know that you do this already. So I think that's a really good idea off the bat, that you work on something like that and let them know, for a job that's flexible. So when you get hired, maybe when you first get hired, maybe after the interview, explain to them that you're a musician, and maybe show them your super cool Instagram with your riffs and stuff like that, and or with your whatever you're doing. Really, it could be any type of music. It could be anything. You can show them your DJing. You can show them stuff, and you can get them to allow you to kind of see you in a light that they know right off the bat that at times you're going to be busy, but at the same rate, be a person who's flexible for your job. So you kind of got to play it both ways right now while you're building yourself up as a musician. Before you're your own boss, you will have a boss. Do you have people who are supportive of your music at your job? I found this to be probably one of the most important things, and the thing that kept me at jobs that I was at for a long time was people who were very supportive of my music, whether they were ones who came out to shows or whether they were ones who allowed me to let my music be my music and I could be me, and they just appreciated it. That feels really good. So that was one of the things that I also looked into, was trying to be able to have a certain dynamic at work that, I always made sure to express my musicianship. And if I could get people who were supportive of me, not only in the job being flexible, but people who are also maybe listen to your song, check it out. You have something new that comes out and you're like at work and you're like, hey guys, you want to take a listen to it? And they're like, yeah, let's check it out. That feels pretty awesome. So I think that finding people who support you at your work, ones who will come to the shows, and you might even find some who get inspired enough that they might be your next student. They might be someone taking lessons from you, or they might be someone who wants to, do more stuff with you in the sense of maybe they play an instrument. Maybe they're going to be helping you make music and helping you do something. So, that's how I met Ben. Ben and me both worked at a coffee shop a long time ago, a big chain, coffee shop. And when we worked there, one of the craziest things is, me and this dude met, and just, I knew in a second Ben was a musician. He knew I was a musician, and we clicked, and we've been friends ever since. Almost 10 years on that, we've been playing and just working on music. So again, you can meet someone at your job who's really supportive. Do you talk about music at your work? Make sure that you're talking about music and you're listening to music. So if you have a cubicle where you can play music, at it doesn't have to be extreme volume, but moderate. Because remember, just like food, if we're taking in thoughts and we're taking in music, if we take in the right music enough times, especially music that we're trying to draw from, we might be able to use those influences in our own weird way. I never liked to learn music in a way where it was like, you get the tabs and you learn it. And it wasn't about learning it by ear either. It was always by trying to write music from me that sounded kind of like what I wanted. I always thought that was a really cool process, was just to try to sound like your favorite artist, but not do it from a nature that was like, oh, I know the exact scale they're playing or anything. You just kind of did it because you knew how to the way that sound made you feel. So I think that that's a really cool thing about listening to music during the day. Another one is, if you're a guitar player or you're a person who, can get a mini guitar or a little small bass and you can bring it to work, like one of those ukulele basses or something, I think it's a really good idea to have an instrument at work that you can play on your breaks, maybe instead of being on your phone all the time. It's a good way to break away and kind of just integrate music as many times as you can in the day. I always felt I was playing my best when I picked the guitar up the most times. Wasn't necessarily always for the most amount of time, but if I did guitar 10 times in a day, and I played that one lick 10 separate times throughout the day, those 10 different chances, the 10 different mindsets I was in, you really start locking in the way it feels to be in a riff in different moods at different times of the day in different light settings. Super important, playing in the dark, playing in the light, playing over here, playing over there. And the other great thing about playing at work is you might have people listening to you, so it kind of tightens you up a little bit. Instead of just kind of practicing lackadaisically or maybe jamming, you might go, okay, cool, I've got this chord progression that I just kind of jammed, and maybe you just made it up. But you kind of really lock in on it quicker. You're like, it's this chord, this chord, this chord, and then you really kind of start building around it instead of just noodling around on it and being really mentally lazy. You can bring some mental strength there to your playing by having a music instrument at work. And if your work lets you bring a keyboard to work and you have space where you can plug headphones in, like an electronic one, and you're a piano player, or it's tough with brass instruments, and it's tough with instruments that are in the orchestra because they're so loud and they're so big. But definitely if your work allows it, or you have space and you're in a big warehouse or something, or you work in an inventory department like I do or something, you can make that work for you. So please do, think of the ways that you can make your job comfortable for you. These are some suggestions. Be ready to request dates off too. So no matter what you're doing when you're playing music, you're gonna need to do gigs. So I'd say set up a schedule that's kind of smart. Maybe you work the mornings on the weekends, so you have the nights open for the gigs, and you might have to deal with being tired a little bit after a gig night and then working a morning. But the real truth is you want to play, and you got to get out there. So setting up day shifts and kind of having the nights a little more open so you can do your gigs or teach a lesson, right when you get off. For you guys who are baristas, when I was doing coffee, It was great because you'd be at work at 4 o'clock in the morning and you'd be off by like 12, maybe 1. So you had all afternoon to practice when no one was home at the, like, if I lived in there's times where I lived in like a townhouse, or, I was living in apartment complexes that were a little like closer knit. Where I am now, I can play a little louder, but at the time I couldn't. And so, you get in these positions where you couldn't practice as long as you wanted to, or you couldn't do things the same way that you wanted to. So I think one of the really big things that I learned is being able to request those dates off and set my schedule in a way. So first, get the job to know you're flexible, talk about music, be about music, just do things music. And remember that if there's any opportunities, if your job has like, oh, we're going to have like a live music thing, make sure they're having you play, or make sure they're asking you. It's nothing cooler than the customers who work at a job getting to see the person play. I used to hold open mics back at, my coffee shop back in the day that I used to work at. And for the people to see you play, I mean, we used to pack the house because they wanted to see like the people there. And, for me to play and have everyone know, and they just really see me as a musician. They saw me as a musician first and as their barista second. I think that that's really a way to live. I think that really encourages your musicianship. And I think that really encourages you because you feel the music inside yourself. You feel that you're a musician. And this is just so important. I almost can't iterate how important it is that you feel like a musician at all times, on top of the fact that you know that. So remember, guys, no matter how many day jobs that we've had to work, no matter how many day jobs you might be working right now, even if you might not be practicing guitar a whole lot because really you're put in a position where the finances are kind of on the forefront and like you're doing the music and you're just working on it, please don't give up on yourself. And remember that you are a work in progress like everyone. We could go over to the best guitar players today and ask them, hey, what do you think you can get better at? And they're going to tell you something that they think that they need to get better at. And while you might not see it, the level they're at, they can see that they need to work on that. So for us, having a job and finances might be where we're at the moment before we can get to just worrying purely about music, or worrying purely from a standpoint where like we can think, how can we have music just make money? And that is the last thought I want to leave you guys with too. Always be searching for a way to make your music get more communication to the outside world. So while you are working your break at work, maybe record your practices and post that on Instagram so people are like, whoa, this guy's really getting it in, and like, and they're really seeing you. If you're going to be, doing music anyway, are you not putting out a website while you're working at your work? If you're getting off early, are you putting those couple of hours that are not only going into practice into a website, into other things? So remember that also while you're working a job, you're creating a job for yourself in music as your own boss, as your own person who will dictate what time you'll do something and take care of something, but you got to have that initiative. You got to have that in natural, like we talked about last week, how to be dedicated is a skill. And this ties into that. But this is separate because this is about the thought process about funneling through having a job and working somewhere for someone else while trying to set an environment up that's the best for you to work on your music and that's the best for you to be expressive. Because remember, if we burn ourselves out at work, if we get a job that's filled with people who are not supportive of our music and not supportive of us, and they're not connecting with us and we're not making good friends, we're going to go home drained every day. And there is something to being drained. It's just really hard to pick up a musical instrument. It's too easy to just jump on YouTube and watch a video, or jump over here and do this and do that. So I want you guys, to have some ideas behind making work for you, so that way you could be the most efficient person that you can be, while at the same time being the kind of person who can pursue music successfully. Because not all of us are going to be able to hustle music 100%, but that doesn't make you not a musician. That doesn't make you not professional. It just means that the dynamic, and it means that the separation, the percentage that you have, is just a little bit more separate. And so as long as you're aware of that and you work with that, I think that you can be confident in yourself, and you can make the assessments that you need to have the right job, to do the right work, to play music. And then when you're playing music, you're not feeling stressed. You're not feeling worked up because you're able to focus on what your communication is, and you're able to make up the music that you wanted to write. And you're not coming from a place that's too colored by frustration and too colored by anger and other people's energy. Because remember, no matter what we do when we work with other people, we bring their energy in. So I wanted to say that these were some suggestions that I had and some ideas that I had for people who have part-time or full-time jobs and they're musicians, but they're still working a day job. So I wanted to say thank you guys for tuning in for episode 10 of the Toned and Toneful video podcast. I really appreciate you guys. I hope you have a great rest of your week. Toned and Toneful.